people waiting in the room. All right. Let's do the waiting. Good morning, everybody. Let me admit all. Hey, hey. Yeah. Let's see who's here. Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Just nod your head or wave if you can hear me.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah, good morning, Professor.
Good morning. Let me see. I got Scott. I'm just going in order as who's listed. This will just take a minute. Today's the 7th. I got Scott. And of course, as always, I got Jessica. Good to see you, Jessica. And
Hi, Professor.
Hey.
My class got canceled. It's on spring break.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm sorry that it got canceled, but I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, me too.
As always, I think I got Amadou. Yes. Let's see who else. Alexa. Speaking to Alexa, let me mark you down as well.
Is there something wrong with the audio?
It's loud.
There you are.
Tell them you can't hear.
And
I can't really hear you, Professor.
oh, let me see.
I mean, I took myself off mute.
Let me bring those up. Any better?
No, not really.
You're kind of low, but I mean,
It's good, but
I can hear you.
now I think that's good.
You know what? Hold on.
How about that? Any better?
Yeah, better.
Yeah. Now I can hear you also. I had it in the wrong output on the side of the Who's You Watch, the box here. I think they call it a computer. No, let's see. Jada. Let's see, Jada. So let me get her in here.
Tina's here as well.
Oh, of course. Good. Say again. Oh, you're laughing at me like everybody else in my house does. And and Aya. Let me get Aya. I got Aya. Iowa, you were with us yesterday, yes? Just nod if you were. Well, Naza, yes, Naza's back. Okay, that's good. And you're over here, and gotcha. And Ibrahim, and Ibrahim, gotcha. Okay, and I got Scott. I think that's everybody. Let me admit who's waiting at the door here. And let's see. Lily, I gotcha. And Rose. Thanks, Rose. I'm going to talk about the Zoom versus the YouTube in just a minute. Danielle. Hey, Danielle. And Rosemary. You're back. We're in the session today. That's good. I know you're here. You are there. Oh, there's Rosemary. And Rosemary was with us yesterday also. And I think I got everybody on the list. Okay. And I sincerely appreciate you being with us today, all of you. It was brought to my attention that some of you are, well, let me put it this way. If you're listening, but you're not going to say anything, just keep your microphone muted so that all the sounds that are around you don't come across. I tell my wife all the time, she leaves the TV on and she has a phone conversation with her cell phone, and I tell her that all the noise in the room or all the sound in the room goes right into the speaker, and you can hear yourself talking, but the people on the other side can't. So anyway, hopefully you'll listen to me because my wife doesn't anyway. But enough of that. Before I start, anybody have any questions? I recap from yesterday in terms of what was the timeline. I see a lot of you, and I really appreciate the fact that more of you. I'm hearing from more of you than ever. The fact that we're capturing some people whose names and faces I hadn't seen since the last day of class or thereabouts. So hopefully we have the recess starting tomorrow. And today I will post writing number 4, and I will also post the discussion. And both of those won't be due until Thursday, April the 17th. Is that what I said yesterday? I don't remember from day to day. I don't even remember if today is Tuesday or not, but I think it is.
10 days.
10 days. So thank you. And yes, you will have more time than usual because there's Passover comes up tomorrow night, and then this is Holy Week for Christian people, and that culminates in Easter Sunday, this coming Sunday. It will be a Passover and Easter like no other. In my tens of thousands of years living with the dinosaurs and being on Earth, I've never seen churches closed, okay, and religious services being canceled. It's just a wild thing to not only imagine but actually see it in sight. But so you will have a spring recess. I will answer emails during that time, and I will take things. But you will have and people that are still trying to catch up. Today I will also give out Amadou's Kingsborough email address, so that if anybody still needs a textbook, I think there might be one person that still can't find a textbook. I will make sure that you have his address, because he has access to the ebook, and that'll help. But by Thursday the 17th, I think I should have caught you up. Okay, you can, by the 17th, you can hand in any past due writings. You can post on next week's discussion, this coming week's discussion board, comments from the past for the first couple, so that you get your participation. And this way, we'll continue to move ahead, but at the same time, taking into account the fact that you know, a lot of you, probably all of you, are juggling a lot of things that no one ever imagined that we would be doing. But next week, next Thursday, the week from this Thursday, from Holy Thursday, I will go back to posting on. I'll still do my office hours on Zoom. I'll do that live, so that we can interact, and if people have questions, and I also then can, you know, have people in the waiting room, and if you just want to talk one-on-one, which office hours are supposed to be able to do too. I'll use Zoom for my office hours, and I will resume. Sorry, dad joke. I will resume using Zoom for office hours, and I'll go back to YouTube and posting the links for the lectures. Okay, because some people were telling me that there's a lot of noise. The Zoom live is distracting, and I can understand that. I did it this week because I had to cram in a lot of stuff into Monday, Tuesday, and tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning, I will mark your writings, whether it's number 3, which is due, or not, you know, and anything else that you might have submitted in the past week or so, one or 2 as well. And I will take 1, 2, and 3 along with 4 next week. Okay. Anybody have any questions before I start talking about the French and the British in North America?
Can you explain the triangle thing again? Because
Sure.
I'm confused.
When they talk about the triangle trade, okay, and oh, you know what? It's there, Jessica. There's a map. I will explain it. Just give me a second, because I know there is a map of the triangle trade in your book. Okay, and not there, not there, not there. Oh. For a second. You will find it when you're looking for it. I can't put my finger on it at the moment, but
It's 68.
wow, you found it. I can't. Well, that's typical. 68. Yes. Yes, I knew it was there. Thank you. Good. On page 68 is the map of what is called the triangle trade. That the triangle trade means it's the shape of a triangle, but there are a number of different triangles that correspond to what this is. It's about the slave trade from Africa to the Caribbean to the 13 British colonies, and then back to England. And there's an England to Africa to the Caribbean triangle as well. but what that means is in fact, there's going to be a song um, that that tells the story as well, and I'll talk about that after we get back from recess. It's called "Molasses to Rum to Slaves," and you might see that in the syllabus. Molasses to rum to slaves, and the triangle means that there are 3 points on the map, and um, let's start in Africa, West Africa, where the nations of Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, and nations like Liberia are today. Those Western African nations were ports where Africans were captured inland in Africa, in the interior, and brought to the west coast of Africa. And then they were brought then to the Caribbean and sold. And those slaves then worked on the plantations to harvest things like sugarcane and cotton and tobacco. And then those products were then brought to New England, in particular, but up north, and were made into, say, the cotton was made into garments, into clothing. The molasses was made into rum, and various things like that. And then those finished products from New England were brought back to Old England and Britain and sold it to Europe. So the triangle trade is about slavery and slave trade. Somebody's got their mic on. Could you please make sure if it's just making noise, and somebody has their mic on and making noise, but not talking. If you're gonna, please have the mic on to talk, but otherwise. And so it's enslaved Africans being brought across the Atlantic Ocean and auctioned and sold, and working on the plantations, and being enslaved for the rest of their lives, and working to make to harvest products, and then those products were then shipped up north and across the Atlantic Ocean to England. Okay, Jessica, does that help?
So they come from Africa, then to the colonies to Europe.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Across the Atlantic, from Africa across the Atlantic, say to the Caribbean, and then it could go back to England, or it could go to New England. Okay.
Oh, okay. I put Europe. I wasn't sure.
There's a couple of different triangles, but note the idea that it is a triangle. That there are actually 3 places, one starting point, a middle point, and an end point, and then it goes back. Okay.
Yeah, because on the map it's have like different circles, like different.
Yeah, there's a number of different triangles, but the idea is that the Africans were enslaved and put on ships. They go to the plantations. They work their lives as slaves, and then the products they're growing and or making are then shipped either northward or back to Europe. Okay, so cross, up, and back. Okay, that's one of the triangles. But it has to do with slaves, African slaves, and their work and their products being shipped to other places. Okay, we can go through that further. I think we got any other questions before I jump in. Okay. I'm not good on visual aids kind of thing, but what I'm holding up in front of my face so that you can see it. Everybody can see that that flag. That is what is commonly referred to as the Union Jack. You might be very familiar with it. I'm not. I hope you are. That is the flag as it is right now. The flag of what is called the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, or we commonly call it Great Britain. Okay, our closest friend in the world, I guess. But what I was saying yesterday, and I'll continue with this today. Look at all the crosses that are on this flag. The English flag starts as a white background with a red cross. That's the one in the middle. That red cross is called the Cross of St. George. Okay, St. George is the patron saint of England and the English men and women. Now, what is added to the English flag is the Scottish flag. The Scottish flag is blue, a blue background, with a white X. That X is the cross of St. Andrew. St. Andrew is the patron saint of Scotland. So the English flag is then combined with the Scottish flag. Now, there is a red X that was added later on. That is the red cross of the red X of St. Patrick. Okay, normally we think Irish and we think green, but St. Patrick's cross is a red X, and that was added to the English flag and the Scottish flag to now make Great Britain. Now, there's a fourth country that you know about. I've already spoken. Wales, and the Welsh people, W-A-L-E-S, Wales. You don't see any evidence of the Welsh being represented on the British flag, but that's not my problem. I didn't do it, but I wanted to show you that, and I'm not going to be having too many visual aids here because I don't know how to include them. I will eventually learn. But in any case, I want to, along with the British flag, I want to tell you this. I want to emphasize this. We are now in the middle part of the 18th century, or the middle 1700s. We talked about this yesterday. What we are dealing with now is not the colonies of Jamestown and Plymouth and Massachusetts Bay and Salem and all that. We are now in the mature stage of the English colonies in the 1740s and 50s. Okay, and what I spoke about yesterday is that British Americans, the British colonists, by this point, thought of themselves as truly and fully British. Okay? They thought of themselves as fully and truly and properly British subjects. They believed that their king was their king. And in formal settings, they would end conversations, or they would have toasts, and they would say, "God save the king." Okay? Because they believed themselves to be British. And with that, all the rights and privileges of being British. Like I said yesterday, British subjects had the right to trial by jury. The British subjects had the right of habeas corpus, to not be thrown in jail without charges, without evidence, okay? And that evidence had to be of a weight of probable cause, okay? And a man's home is his castle. You know, you had, all the way back then, you had a right to your own privacy. And these were all things that were passed down. That's the heritage of Great Britain, and it's involved in the government. And Great Britain had what none of the other European kingdoms had. Of course, they had a king, but Great Britain also had a people's branch of government, a lawmaking branch called Parliament. And the people that were members of Parliament were elected by the people that lived in the particular districts. And that idea, that's a democratic idea, that people have a say in their lives. And the other European countries didn't have that. The king was the king, and the king was almighty, if you will. Okay. By the by, I didn't notice this until I was watching the recording yesterday, but I realized that you guys can, and you do maintain a running chat, and I appreciate that. Okay. And if I, from time to time, if I can grab a hold of the, if there's a question that's written out, yeah. And I and Rose, if you want to ask questions, just to me as well, hang out and we can do that. I'm going to reserve some time later for just like an office hour. But just going, not to be distracted. Going back to the British heritage. So British colonists really thought themselves to be British, but of course they're not living in Great Britain anymore. They're living in a land that is 6,000 miles away. It takes weeks upon weeks. It takes a couple of months by ship to get from Europe to North America. Okay. You just didn't get in a boat and get off the boat the next day and you're voila, you're there. Remember how long it took Columbus to just get across? And he was sailing in the southern hemisphere. The North Atlantic is that much more treacherous. People died in shipwrecks all the time in the North Atlantic. So there is time and space separating Great Britain from the British colonists, the British Americans. And that distance gave British Americans a real sense of independence, that they were separated and they were not, while they thought of themselves as fully British, they, at the same time, they thought of themselves as being American and being not so much American, but independent. They live over here. They're calling their own shots. They're electing their own lawmakers and their own mayors and civic leaders. Okay, and that is very, very important to keep in mind. There's this duality of British Americans, British colonists. They think of themselves as fully British, and but at the same time, they live in America, in the 13 colonies, and they think they're very, very independent, and their lifestyles are very, very different. They still honor the king, but at the same time, their ways of governing themselves are very much with an independent idea or an independent look at things. But here's an interesting point. The British in Great Britain looked down on the colonists in a lot of ways. And when you watch Last of the Mohicans, I'll talk about that later, the movie. But as you watch Last of the Mohicans, you will see how the British officers and the British soldiers that are coming from England and Scotland and Ireland and Wales and coming to the New World, they look down their noses at these colonists. Because remember, the people that are living in North America were cast-offs. They were outcasts from Great Britain. They were the people that were being persecuted because of their religion, or because they were poor and destitute, or they were ignorant. And they said, "Go, get out of here. Good riddance. Go over there and don't come back." And they said, "Good, we're leaving. You can't fire me. I quit." That kind of thing. And they leave and they go across the Atlantic to start new lives and never thinking about England again. So there's this, I don't know if you want to call it schizophrenia, but there's this duality here, the split personality. The British wanted the colonists and the colonies because it meant one thing. Colonies meant Chicarol, okay, as they say, D'argent, dinero. Mercantilism meant that colonies would feed the mother country, feed the king and the crown with wealth, okay? But of course, they looked down upon the British colonists. At the same time, they wanted the British colonists. At some point in time, almost 3/5 of the British Empire's economy comes from the North American colonies. So if they don't have the colonies, they're not getting the income, the revenue, and revenue is going, as you're going to see, is extremely, extremely important to the British Empire, because revenue, money, means that they can have a large and powerful army and a large and powerful navy, and they can be the empire. And we've talked about this already, where why the English, why the British were they come out on top. Not to spoil anything, but the British Empire is the one that does come out on top. By the end of today, you're going to know about something called, it's called a number of different titles. What I used to be taught in school and along the years, it's the war, the French and Indian War. Okay, that's an old title, but they talk about it still that way. The French and Indian War. Okay, it's not the French fighting the Indians; it's the French fighting the British. Okay, and the end of that is going to mean just one thing. It's going to mean that Britain is going to come out on top. Britain is going to be the empire in the world. Okay, and the French and the Spanish are going to take a back seat. But that's not until 1763. We're talking about what leads up to that war, and then we'll talk about the results of that. And you will see the French and Indian War, or another name for it, the 7 Years' War, or another name for it. Your book refers to it as the War for Empire. It's all the same war, okay? But the British are going to become the empire in North America, and the French are going to take a beating, and they're going to be done in North America after 1763. But we said this before. Why England and not Spain or France? Because the English came in droves, literally by the boatload, and they were coming here with their families, and they were coming here in large populations. The English colonies, the British colonies, were concentrated. Look where they are. There are 13 colonies down the Atlantic coast of North America, and they hug the coast. They don't venture too far inland. So they're concentrated, and they build permanent homes for themselves. They're not thinking of going back. Like we said, They're malcontents. They're people that are outcasts. They're people that are not welcome back in the old country, and that makes them have a permanence in the colonies, and that permanence means that this is going to be their home forever and ever, and they will defend their homes like you defend nothing else. Okay. Like we said, these colonies have an independence to them, and as well, and but there's an abundance in these colonies, and the people work for the wealth for themselves, and then in turn, Great Britain gets the bounty from that wealth. Okay. Now, something that you should know about European history and American history. The British and the French, they don't like each other. For how long? 1,000 years? Maybe. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but not by much. Okay. It seems like for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. In fact, it's not until a generation or two ago, World War I. Let's say the start of the 20th century. Okay, the start of the 20th century, the 1900s, is the time when the French and the British finally look across the water from each other and say, okay, we're allies. Starting with World War I, they're allies, World War II, and the like. But for literally hundreds of years, the British and the French are at war. There's almost constant warfare. They take land from each other. In the early days, it was England going across the English Channel and taking northern France and calling that part of their own. Actually, the other way around. The Normans, the northern French, in 1066, they come across and it's called the Norman Conquest. They take part of England. So there's this back and forth, even between England and France itself in the very early days. But there's an animosity there. There's a rivalry there that when the New World is explored and colonized, it's that animosity, the warfare and the hatred and the back and forth is eventually going to get have a corresponding presentation over in I should say manifestation over in North America. In other words, what's going on in Europe is eventually going to cross the Atlantic, and New France and New England, or the French colonists and the French colonies in North America, and the English colonies, the British colonies in North America, are eventually going to go at each other. Okay? And it's going to culminate in between 1754 and 1763 in what is referred to as the French and Indian War, like I said, or the 7 Years' War in North America, part of the 7 Years' War that's being fought in Europe, in North America, or as historians like to call it now, the War for Empire. And it's called the French and Indian. It was called the French and Indian War predominantly because, if you remember when we talked about French colonists, the French colonists did um, did have certainly a strong affiliation with the Native American tribes. A lot, most of the Native American tribes and nations allied with the French, and if you remember, there's a very good reason for that. And if you can't remember right at the moment, I'll refresh your memory. It's because when the French came to North America, they have a strong affiliation with the natives because they were looking for the fur-bearing animals, and fur-bearing animals just don't walk up to you and say hi. Would you please, if you will, capture me and take my fur, and that just doesn't happen. You have to be very, very skilled in hunting and trapping these animals. The only way you're going to learn those skills, you're not going to learn those skills in France. Okay, what's going on in France and what goes on in French North America is like night and day. It's like all the frou-frou French, with their gowns and their lace and their all that stuff, and their makeup, and that's just the guys. That's not going on over in New France. It's not going on over in Canada and northern the northern colonies here. It's a much different life. It's back to nature. So the French and the Native American nations are, for the most part, allied with one another. Except for the Iroquois Confederacy, which I spoke about yesterday. They saw themselves in a lot of ways being allied with the British. Okay, it might have been because of the rivalry with the French, and they didn't like what the French did, and some of them preferred the British over the French. But in any case, everything is set up. The ocean separates North America from Europe, and for a very, very long time, the wars that went on in Europe between the French, Spanish, British, didn't really come into play. The French in North America were separated from the English, and the British in North America were separated from the Spanish. Lots of real estate there, and lots of real estate separates the New World from the Old World. But eventually the world gets smaller, and eventually the New World and the Old World collide again in a big way. There's going to be this French and Indian, war, this French and Indian War, this war for empire. The 7 Years' War is going to make its way over. The British colonists always looked upon the French as being part of the reason why they couldn't expand further into the interior of North America. The French were blocking their way, and they resented that. They blamed the French for that. And so there were a couple of little conflicts, and your book talks about them. King William's War, Queen Anne's War, and King George's War, where bits and pieces of New France come under the control of Great Britain. Okay, but it's not until 1754 where things really break out, and war breaks out between New France and New England, or the British colonies and the French colonies, where British redcoats, regiments of the British Army, and squadrons of the British Navy are going to be fighting French armies, and French naval forces in their home territory. And you can, there's a lot of evidence of that when you watch Last of the Mohicans. Okay, but, let me just see here if you just, I'm gonna take a second here to check my notes. Yeah, it's not until 17 the French and Indian War that British Americans and French Americans come in close contact with each other in terms and come into warfare with each other. And like I said, there's going to be a number of Indian nations that are, most of the Indian nations are going to ally themselves with the French, but the Iroquois Confederacy will have more of an alignment with the British, and that's going to press British American loyalties. Like we said, they think of themselves as fully British, and they think that they should be respected as fully British. And what comes to pass is that when the British armies and the British Navy comes to North America, they do not. They look, like I said before, they look down their noses at these colonists. Okay, they are rude and crude and ignorant and dirty and just, ugh. And the colonists are saying, hey, wait a minute, we're doing everything for you. We're making you rich. Show us some respect. And you're going to see this in the movie. Okay, you're going to see this in the movie where you can tell you can feel the animosity between the hatred between the British Americans and the British officers and soldiers. Okay. I'm going to stop here just for a minute, because I'm next going to just go talk about the Last of the Mohicans for a few minutes, and then we can go on from there. Does anybody at this point in time? I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Does anybody have a question? You have to unmute yourself if you're going to ask a question, but please do. It's good and cold. Didn't want cold coffee, but that's what I got. Hearing none, let me talk a couple of minutes about the Last of the Mohicans, and as a piece of fiction, because it starts out as a book. Okay. The Last of the Mohicans was written in 1832, okay, by an American. His name is James Fenimore Cooper, okay, one of the famous American authors of the 1800s, okay. You're going to get Nathaniel Hawthorne, who wrote one of the House of the Seven Gables and the Scarlet Letter. He told stories of the colonial Massachusetts Bay Colony and the Puritans and the like, life in the United States. James Fenimore Cooper told us what were commonly referred to as the leather stocking tales. Okay. James Fenimore Cooper writes about what he knows, and he knows about upstate New York, the Hudson Valley, and the Finger Lakes, and the beautiful country, and the beautiful natives and that inhabited that time. And what James Fenimore Cooper does is creates this character known as the noble savage. Okay, it is it's a look at Native Americans as being very, very noble and highly moral and leading good lives. But the noble savage, the juxtaposition of being noble and being at the same time savage, looked upon because they were different. They were racially, they were different. Culturally, they were very, very different. And because the less anglicized they were, the more noble they were in a lot of ways. But James Fenimore Cooper writes this fictional story, okay, and giving us a very, very, very good historic picture of what was going on in the times when the British and the French go to war in North America. And like I said, that the culmination of that war in 1763 and the treaty that ends that war, the Treaty of Paris of 1763, is going to give Great Britain all of North America. The French in 1763, the end of this war, the result, the biggest result of the war known as the War for Empire or the French and Indian War is that the French lose. The French lose, the British win, and with that victory and with the Treaty of Paris in 1763, we're gonna find that the map of North America changes drastically, and that British North America is basically all there is, at least to the Mississippi River. But going from Georgia all the way up into Canada becomes one color, and that's the British color on the map. The French are driven out of North America, and it's a massive, massive blow. But that's going to lead to an incredible number of problems. But again, focusing on The Last of the Mohicans, it tells the story of British Americans. It tells the story of Native American tribes. It tells the story of the French and the British rivalries in North America. It shows you a number of battles in this war. And as you can see, a lot of the war is fought right in New York, upstate New York this time. When we look at the American Revolution, I'm going to talk about how the American Revolution was fought a lot in New York City, Battle of Brooklyn, and the like. But the French and Indian War, you're going to find a lot of the real estate is being used for battles in New York State. Lake George, vacation spot, Fort William Henry, Fort Ticonderoga, and they're all mentioned there. The Last of the Mohicans, we see there are three Native Americans: Uncas, Hawkeye, and Chingachgook. Okay. Now Hawkeye is a part Native American and part British. Okay, so he represents both sides in this. Okay, I believe his mother was Native American and his father was British. So he has a foot in both worlds, and he's the central character. and what he does throughout the movie is very, very interesting. And I know if you get a hold of this movie, you will enjoy it. It's a well acted, well written. Okay, it's an adaptation. The production values, as they say, are very high, and it's supposed to be taking place in 1757. Okay, like I said, it's taking place upstate New York in the Adirondack Mountains. Like I said, Fort William Henry, Fort Ticonderoga, and these battles that eventually will lead to Great Britain, the Empire of Britain, taking over North America and driving the French out. So for next time, for writing number 4, it's going to be, you're going to be looking at chapters 3 and 4. Chapters 3 and 4, and The Last of the Mohegans, and I've given you now about 3 hours almost of lecture. And don't forget, I'm going to post the discussion board in the new thread today, and I will post writing number 4 as well, and telling you again, writing number 4 will be due on Thursday, the 17th. But if you haven't handed in 1, 2, or 3, you have up until then to do that, and you have up until then to do the discussion boards as well. I don't have to end until I've answered all questions and I made sure that everybody's here. But at this point in time, does anybody have a question, either about the history of it all, or just what's going on and or anything like that? And if you need to speak to me like one-on-one, wait around and we can do that at the end of the session. But I can stop right now and ask if you have any questions. Anybody still awake?
Yeah.
You don't have to have questions. I mean, it's possible that once in my life I was perfectly clear, but I really believe you're going to enjoy the movie. It's an incredible story, and it's a great Hollywood film. Daniel Day-Lewis. Okay, he was in the Crucible, and now you're going to see him again as Hawkeye, as Nathaniel in this movie. Anybody? Oh, let's see, you're back again. Let me just get you in the door again. Anyway, yes.
I have a question. Please, my question is the third writing is our midterm exams, or what?
You're asking about the midterm?
Is the third writing for midterm, or are you going to give us midterm exams? I want something like.
I'm not understanding the question. I'm sorry.
I said,
you're talking about the
are
third.
you going to give us midterm exams, or?
Oh, yeah, but not now.
Oh, okay. Because I thought tomorrow is the midterms. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that was the world before we all went downhill.
So tomorrow cancel.
No, don't worry about the midterm yet.
All right.
And while I'm thinking about it, and you reminded me, thank you.
Sure.
I've said this before, but you should pass this along to anybody that the City University has decided that you can take the class once final grades come in. When you receive your final grade, you will have 20 days after receiving your final grade in order to decide whether or not you want a letter grade or just credit for the course. It's what they used to call pass fail.
Oh, okay.
You can, and believe me, some of you are handing everything in and doing very well in the writings, or some of you are doing well, and
Am I doing well too?
well, yes, but you'll see at the end whether or not it's
But at least you have to give us comment to know if we are doing the right thing or not.
well, I do now. I as of tomorrow, I will have marked 3 of the writings.
All right.
But what I'm trying to say is this: I think the people that are in the room today, I think are people that are participating. They're handing in the writings and the like. So I think you're gonna find that you're gonna be pleased with your letter grade.
All right.
But if you're, at the end, if you look at the grade and say it's not that great, you can just take it for credit and no harm. Okay. So but that's in June. That's later on.
I'm sorry, Chino. Where should we take the grade? I'm sorry.
You can at the end in June, after you get your grade, you will have 20 days to determine whether or not you want to keep the letter grade or you just take the credit. You take it pass fail. And if say it's a D or something like that, or even if it's a C and you're running all A's and everything else, if you take it pass fail, it will not go into your CUME, your grade point average, and it won't harm you anyway. You get the credit, but you don't get the mediocre grade. But a lot of you are on the mark, so far, looking like in the future, if you kept it up, you would have you'd be in the B or the A range. But
I don't think E's.
So but that's in the future. But what it's basically saying to everybody: take a breath, take it easy. We have to all, as the City University and as Kingsborough, we have to be a lot looser and understanding about what's going on. It's literally life and death outside our doors, all of our doors. And I live near the hospital where my wife works, and I'm constantly hearing ambulance sirens. Everybody's lives have been touched, so far by this. So there has to be a level of understanding that outside of here, we gotta, there's real life, and so we have to set our priorities, and the priority is our friends, our family, our own lives, and then here's school afterwards. I'm grateful that this is. I always enjoy talking about history anyway, and I appreciate that there's somebody out there that I can talk to about this. But this can't be everything. So we'll muddle through this with each other, and we're going to be as understanding as possible. So if you're having problems inside your family, you'll certainly let me know that. But if you can hang in with us, we'll try and make it worth your while. All right.
Right.
But I have to figure out how I'm going to administer the midterm. Obviously it's going to be a take-home midterm.
Okay.
right? So, but it's not this week for sure. Okay, we are not adhering to the syllabus. I mean, I'm following the syllabus, but we're like 2 weeks behind where we normally would be. Okay, or maybe a week or so. Does anybody have any questions? Any other questions?
Okay, Professor, I'm gonna go ahead and exit because I have another class coming in right now.
Okay.
And
can I listen in? Okay, yeah. Can I?
Of course, you can come into my math class. Come on in.
Okay. All right.
And I sent you the email with my essay yesterday. So
yes, I did. I checked emails right before I signed on here. So so yeah, I did see it. And like I said, tomorrow morning when I get up, I'm going to start reading them, and you'll get my my grade back to you tomorrow.
Appreciate it. Thank you
all right.
much.
All right, Sheena, we'll see you soon. Okay, and but I'll wish you happy holidays when we talk next.
I appreciate it. Same to you guys and your family.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
All righty. If you have a question that just a one-on-one kind of thing, hang out a minute or so, and we can do that. If not, we can sign off for now, and I will pass the word along that I will be. It's recording, so I will post this up, and if you want to watch it again, I think we cut down on the outside noise a lot today. But watch the movie. Sit down. I mean, you have time now, and you've run through all. You've binge watched all the what is that tiger thing that's going on, and a bunch of other stuff. Sit down. This is a really, really good story. It's an American classic as far as a novel, and this movie that was made a few years ago is really, really good. So watch that. Instead of Wheel of Fortune. No, that's me. I watch Wheel of Fortune. I'm an old person. I watch Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune right after dinner. But then we have our hot cocoa and go to bed. Anyway, okay. If you have no other questions, I'll sign off, and I'll post the recording, and we'll talk real soon. Okay.
Nice seeing you, Professor.
Thank you, Alexa. Everybody, please take care. Stay safe, stay well. Hang in. We're going to get through this. And if you celebrate Easter, well, Passover's first. Have a good Passover, good Seder. Easter, happy Easter, and enjoy the time off. I won't bug you as much till next week then. Okay. All right. Love to your families. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye. I'll sign off last. I'll hang out till the last. Okay. I think I got everybody's attendance. Devron, are you there? Devron?
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Are you?
just checking in with you. You were you with us today?
Okay, I think I lost my Zoom. Where is it? Should be here.
I see your box. I don't see you.
Oh, okay.
How's everything?
Gotcha. Good. Thank you, sir. How are you doing today?
Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I want to ask you about. You said assignment 2. Is that we'll have to write in the blackboard, or is that we'll have to email it to you?
The writing assignments, you attach them in an email, um, you can, if any other, you can just put it in the body of the email. But assignments 1 and 2 were already past due, but it doesn't matter. You can send them to me. And 3 is due as well. I'm going to take everything 1, 2, 3, and the new assignment number 4 up until Thursday, April 17th. That's a week from this Thursday. Okay.
Okay.
Because starting tomorrow night is the beginning of Passover, and then this week is for Christians is Holy Week, and Sunday is Easter Sunday. So we have the recess. Assignment number 4 won't come due till after the recess, but you can catch up on the discussion board, and you can catch up on the writings. Or everything that was past due can still be handed in up until Thursday, the 17th.
17. Okay.
All right.
Yes.
So if you're still catching up, that's fine. You have another week. You have another 10 days to catch up. All right.
Sure.
So
we'll have to watch the Crucible video of the movie Crucible.
The Crucible, yeah. I think it's 1996 version. So for writing number 3, that's the Crucible. The one I'm going to sign tomorrow for a week from Thursday is the movie The Last of the Mohegans. Okay, I don't know if you've ever seen that one. That's a Hollywood film. It stars Daniel Day-Lewis and a number of other people. It's really, really, really good story, a really good movie. And you write about that along with the chapter 3 and 4, and now this week there's 3 hours of lecture on Zoom that are recorded and available. You can watch it again and again.
Okay. Yes.
Very good. I got you down on attendance. Yeah. Every time you show up here, or every time you do a discussion board comment, that's the participation credit. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So anytime you're invited, come on, and we'll get, we'll do a little talking. Okay.
Yes. I want to ask you about that. You said that if the student wants to, like, how to say that, pass or no pass, you said he's gonna still get the credit.
Yeah. What that means is when all is said and done in June, when the final grades are in, normally you would get a letter grade, A, B, C, D, F, right? And so you're going to get a letter grade, and you can decide. You'll have 20 days to decide. So sometime by July, you can decide, and you can tell Kingsborough, I got a D plus. I really don't want anybody seeing a D plus. You can change that to a P for passing, okay, or maybe it's a C for credit. No, it can't be C. But what it's saying is, it's not a great letter grade, but I can just turn that into pass or fail, and so you get a P for passing, and you get the credit. You get the 3 credits. You get a credit for taking the course, and it doesn't harm your GPA.
No.
It doesn't get added into your GPA. You get credit for the course, you took it, and you got the credit, and it goes on your transcript. But it doesn't have a grade that possibly it's just an okay passing grade. Now, people that have B plus, A minus, A or A plus, I don't think you're going to want to do that. Okay, you're going to keep the grade.
Yes.
Those are good grades. And by June, I think a lot of people will be in a position to say, oh, I got a B plus. I think I'll keep the B plus, and instead of just getting the credit, I want people to see I got a B plus or an A. But that's down the road. That's certainly not something you need to think about now. What it's trying to do for students is to take the pressure off them, to so that, you know, this is a tough time for everybody. So what the college is saying is we're gonna let you relieve some of the pressure by not having to worry about I gotta get so that if you just squeak by, you just pass, you get the P, and nobody knows, you know, what you got. So you got the credit.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any if you want to set up, you know, if you have more questions, you can always email me, and we'll set up an appointment, and we can do a private Zoom meeting, or you know, or with some others. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Good.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Oh, and if any more questions right now, I'll take them. But if not, yeah, we'll yeah, go on.
So assignment 2 and then third, how many page it should be? I just want to ask.
I think all of them should be at least 3 pages.
At least 3 pages. Okay.
Yeah. If you can write more, write more. But try and give me 3. All right.
Yes.
Good. Good. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're most welcome. All right. Take care. Good holiday if you
You too.
celebrate, and we'll see you next week. All right.
Sure.
All right. Very good. Take care.
Yeah. Be safe.
You too. Thanks.